Hey, this is Blackbeltginganinja, and I'm going to give you a tutorial on my new setup for super extended beverage skip. I want to start the tutorial by saying that if you haven't learned regular beverage skip, you have to go do that first. It's much easier than this skip, and you shouldn't learn this skip until you're going for a semi-competitive time. Anyway, onto the tutorial. So you do some strats, you get to the elevator, and you start doing beverage skip like normal. Being fast is recommended, but it's not so important. Here's the setup for the hard part. When you see the cityscape skybox, begin moving right until you hit the corner. Be careful not to rub too much against the wall, or you'll get caught on some part of the wall. To avoid this, I look around this angle you see here. When you get into the corner, wait about a second, then begin a smooth circle. Halfway into that circle, hit reaction time. Reaction time will allow you to line up your exit from the elevator, which should be as precisely perpendicular to the elevator door as possible. Now we're going to use this vent for our setup. Horizontally speaking, look around this area, at this diagonal piece of wall in this building. Next, vertically speaking, move your camera to get it eventually facing straight out into the horizon, perpendicular to face body. Then, you're going to want to hit tab to pause the game. Notice where the vent is vertically on my screen. You must hit tab when the vent is in a particular position. This position you see now works for my setup, but the exact position will differ for everyone, and I'll explain that in a second. So, now that I know I'm in the right position, I wait a second after my first tab, then double-click tab very quickly. As you see here, the vent is half off my screen when I'm back in the tab menu. This is what we're looking for. You don't want to be able to see the top half of the vent. Normally, if you can see any part of the bottom corner of the vent, like I can here, you're in the clear, you got the skip. This is the key part of the setup. This is where my vent positioning back at the first tab comes into play. Keep in mind that everyone can double-click tab at different speeds, depending on their keyboard and their finger dexterity. So, you need to go do some testing and find a vent position on that first tab that works for your tab speed to get you in this position right here. I personally try to hit my first tab around when the vent is in the middle of my screen, or a little bit below that. But that's not important. To summarize everything I just said though, you want to go out and do some testing and find a position for the vent during your first tab that works for your setup, so that when you double-click tab, the vent will end up in this position, or possibly a little more off the screen. That will work too. And you'll see in a second that this setup does indeed get me the skip. I'll play this clip again for you without all the pausing so you can see the skip. I'll also take this time to note that it is possible to double-click tab too quickly so the level will not load. Keep that in mind if the level's not loading after your second tab. Alright, because this skip is really complicated, we're going to analyze some failed attempts now to see why they didn't work. In this clip right here, I hit my first tab a little too early, which results in my second tab being early as well. I could have salvaged this after my first tab by spacing out the next two tabs more, but it would have been difficult. We can see the whole vent here on the second tab screen, which results in me landing outside the room. In this second clip, my first tab is a tiny bit late, and I don't double-click tab quickly enough either, so the vent goes completely off my screen, and I lose too much height and I fall through the floor. In this clip, my tabs are okay, but my circle causes me to leave the elevator diagonally. This results in me not moving forward enough to get into the room. Just a reminder that the circle is important as well, although I didn't really emphasize it earlier. We need a good, full circle and a clean exit from the elevator to get the skip optimally. That's just going to take a lot of practice. Okay, let's look at some clips that did work now. Although in this clip the vent does go fully off my screen, it doesn't go too far off my screen, so I don't lose enough height to fall infinitely. The skip ends up working. In this clip, you'll see me exit the elevator a little bit late, which makes the level load in faster, before my second tab. Additionally, I look a little too far to the left, and I have to improvise the tabs a little more than I'd like. Improvisation is okay with practice, but obviously not preferred. I've even had attempts where my first tab was so early that I managed to do 3 tab buffers and I still landed in the run, so it's possible. The third clip here is similar to the first, where I tab a little late, but I still get the skip. And I'll leave you with one more perfect showing of the clip, and I promise you this is different from the one at the beginning. You can find other tutorials for this skip on YouTube, but they all hit reaction time earlier than I do. That's what makes this setup a little bit different. I hit it later, so I can use the reaction time to better line up my first tab. I hope this helped. Thanks for watching.